So today, Quality Home Inspections is heading to a house that someone bought and has been living in for about 7 months now. And when they bought the house, they chose not to use a realtor or a real estate agent. They said, we don't need a buyer's agent, we're fine. Well, now, because they chose that route, now they're living in a house that has no water. This house is on a well, so there's no city water going to it. It has its own private water well, which is great. That has a lot of benefits, but because they didn't have a buyer's agent to guide them through the process, they did not know to get the well tested. And now 7 months later, after living in the home, the family has no water. The house has no water. So I'm being hired out there, called out there to test the well and figure out what we need to do in order to get water back into the house. So, but this is why buyer's agents are really important. I mean, their role in the real estate world is huge. They not only do they help with the mechanical side of things, hiring a home inspector and a well tester and all these things, but they also negotiate. There's lots of negotiations that happens. They're basically your legal counsel, because there's lots of legalities for buying a home, and then there's tons of things to know about the contracts. So, people that choose not to have a buyer's agent, they're really shooting themselves in the foot. I mean, they might think that they're capable of it, or maybe they think they're going to save some money, but in the long run, it's not a good decision. Buyer's agents are needed, and this right here, this job today, is exactly why. So hopefully, it's not a bad problem. Hopefully it's something minor. Hopefully it's something small, and I can get it fixed for them today. That's ideal. But if they're running out of water, there might be a possibility that they need their well redeveloped, and that's an expensive process. Or, worst case scenario, they need a whole new well, and that could be $20,000, $30,000. So by them not having a buyer's agent, now they have a house with no water, and it might cost them tens of thousands of dollars to fix it. So it wasn't worth it. But we're headed to the property now. We got about a 40-minute drive, and hopefully it's a minor issue, but we're going to figure it out. Okay, so I just finished the well system test, and unfortunately, it's not looking good for his well. It's a low producing well, and it did fail the pressure and flow test, the gallons per minute, and but I also did find a lot of other issues on his well system. He has a lot of electrical problems. I don't know who wired up his well system, but they did not do a good job. And it's very complex. He actually has 3 pumps, 1 cistern, 3 sub panels, and a generator panel, all on this one well system. So it's very complex. It took about an hour for me to trace it and figure out the plumbing and the electrical, how it's all, the water lines and everything is all set up. Really complex system. So the other thing I didn't like was that his cistern was, it's an underground concrete cistern, and a cistern is just a storage tank for water. So there's lots of, did a water test, there's lots of bacteria growth, there's lots of contamination. So not only does he have well problems, but he is going to need to have that cistern drained out and cleaned and disinfected, so that their family can have healthy water. So did find several different problems, and I talked to the client about that, and a game plan, give him a game plan for what to do on that. But ultimately, he's going to have to drill a deeper well, and because we're just running out. After 40 minutes, we ran out of water. So again, this is why a buyer's agent is so important, because This family chose not to have a real estate agent or a realtor represent them when they bought this house. So talking to the neighbor, his well cost him $25,000 to drill his well. So now that's probably what's going to cost them the same amount. So because they didn't have a buyer's agent, they're going to have to spend $25,000 just to drill a new well, not to mention all the electrical repairs that are going to be needed, and then disinfecting his cistern. So he's looking at minimum $30,000 because he didn't have a buyer's agent. So I feel bad for this family, and because now they have a beautiful house at the foothills, but they have no water. So that's why it's really important to have a buyer's agent, so that buyer's agent can walk these buyers through the process and make sure that they're protected during the home buying experience. Check out my website. It's northerncoloradohomeinspector.com.